All right. This Hyper 7 collection video ended up being about an hour and a half. Great video, though. I tell you what, I really enjoyed watching this one back. I watch all my videos back before I upload them. And then I do watch, I enjoy watching my videos. This is a great video. I like this one. But it was really big, so I broke it into two parts, about 45 minutes each. Um, and just a couple little things I forgot I want to touch on real quick. First of all, finally got my new 2 millimeter in, and boy, the contrast of the tips on these things is night and day. I mean, it's amazing how much is gone from that one. But again, this saw a ton of use. I'm not mad at it at all. It served its time. One thing I wanted to touch on, I didn't mention, I forgot in the video. The O-ring for the fuel tank is something that is a maintenance item, and throughout my years of running Hyper 7s, I guarantee I've went through probably at least 10, a dozen O-rings for the tank. I went through a couple tanks. The tanks last pretty good. They don't really break. The tanks are pretty good, but those O-rings do, especially the rubber ones, they will shrink over time. You will notice that you're not getting seal in your tank and you have to replace the O-ring. What I went ahead and did, since I know I'm going to be going through them, I don't know why I didn't do this a couple years ago. Well, I do have some ones that fit it that I've been using in an O-ring kit that I have, but they're rubber. So, even with the moly coat on them, the fuel just, it hardens them and shrinks them up. So I bought a bag of silicone here, and the size on these, 21 is the outer diameter, and they're 2.5 millimeters thick. All right, so 2.5 millimeter cross section, outer diameter, 21 millimeter. And I got them in silicone. And I tell you what, I got 30 of them right there for like $8 shipped. Can't beat that when, I mean, you can get O-rings cheaper, but when you buy 100 in a kit. But anyway, for a specific size, if you were to buy a replacement O-ring, I don't know if Ofna even sells a replacement O-ring for the tank, but that'd be $4 or $5 for one. Anyways, I'm rambling. And I also, real quick, want to touch upon this, what this is, okay? Now, I wonder if anyone else does this. I am always, right? I am always at my workbench here, okay? I'm always doing something, working on something here at my workbench. And it gets cluttered. As I'm sure if you watch my videos, you've seen there's always something laying out here. What this is I'll get cluttered up. I kind of just grab everything, throw it in a bag, and then at a later point, I will take the bag and go through it and put everything up from there. You know what I mean? I'll go through and put the clutch bells with the clutch bells, the flywheels with the flywheels, you know what I mean? Here is a pair of and I'll touch upon this in the video. I have these on all of my Hyper 7s. These are the low profile CNC engine mount plates right there. I really like those. Like I said, I have them on all my buggies. All right, anyways, there's plenty of Hyper 7 stuff in here. No, it's a Kyosho bumper. Enjoy the videos. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Have a great day. Hello, and welcome to Nitro Talk. If you are into Nitro vehicles, specifically the Hyper 7, if you're into Ofna, if you're into anything Nitro, thank you very much for watching. Please give me a like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Today, It's been a while since I have done a collection video. Still have clutch collection to do, starter box collection. But today, what we are going to do is take a look, go through my Ofna Hyper 7 series 8-scale off-road nitro buggy collection. It is the buggy that I run. I've been running it for years, and I have gathered quite a little collection of Hyper 7 stuff. So let's go ahead and start taking a look at this stuff. Now, this right here is, all right, so let me lay out how, all right, so let's wrap for a little bit. I didn't set out to run the Hyper 7. I didn't say, okay, what 8-scale off-road chassis am I going to run? And then decided on the Hyper 7. Okay, it was nothing like that. Before I had ever raced on a track, I was a basher, parking lot, park, field, running like that, and had all kinds of vehicles. I had gotten a buggy or two, and I think at the time I first ran on a track, I probably had 2 or 3 buggies. Started liking running on a track, and it just so happened, I had a lot of vehicles coming and going. Back in these days, I was buy-sell trading locally, Craigslist, whatnot. So I had a lot of vehicles coming and going. It just so happened that I had a couple Hyper 7s. And, so it was what I had at the time when I started running on a track. So it just kind of stuck. Like I said, I had a couple of them. I've had throughout the years. Right now, I think I have 4, like somewhat built ones. I have had a Hyper SS, which I don't really consider that Hyper 7 series to me is Hyper 7, Hyper 7 Pro, Hyper PBS, Hyper 7 TQ Sport. Is that it? The PCR and the PBS. Yeah, so Hyper PCR, Hyper PBS, Hyper 7, Hyper 7 TQ Sport, and what was the other one? Was there another one? Anyways, Hyper SS. I don't consider that. Oh, the Hyper 7 Pro. All right. Anyways, so I don't consider the Hyper SS, even though it shares some parts. Nah, it's not a Hyper 7 series. All of those ones I just named share a lot of interchangeable parts, although there are some differences. All right, so I started running the Hyper 7s and got used to them. I liked running it. It started as that just so happened to be what I had around, but I grew to like the buggy. Now, it does have some issues, and I feel that at this point in time, I have essentially worked out all the bugs in the Hyper 7. I feel that I have my Hyper 7 chassis. Now, generally speaking, the Hyper 7 is a tank. It is. My specific Hyper 7, Hyper 7s, are true tanks. I literally don't think, and let me go ahead and knock on plastic, I don't think I've broken apart on my race Hyper 7, my current one. This is my previous one. Um, I don't remember the last time I broke or had to replace anything on that buggy. I've been swapped engines out 5, 6, 7 times. I've just been refueling and running that thing for about 2 years now. It is a literal tank. But anyway, so I'm going to go through all of the modifications that I have done to my Hyper Sevens that I feel that they need. Some that they definitely need. Some suggestions and some little tricks that I do. I've been running Hyper Sevens for years. All right, so where to begin? Okay. I also, before we get started looking at stuff, I want to touch upon this. The Todd philosophy of 8 scale buggy racing, right? Like I said before, I'm not a pro racer. I local club racing, and I don't even I don't make it out to every club race. Probably not even every other club race. Every now and then I get to do a club race. I'm more of a practicer on the track. I love running on the track. I love hitting the track with my buddies, not necessarily a race day. I like race days too, but I prefer a non-race day, but at the track. I love running my buggy on the track, right? So my philosophy when it comes to running 8 scale off-road buggies, okay, is this. And this is what I have learned through the years. What my philosophy is you spend the money on your radio and your servos. You do not spend the money on your chassis and your engine. Now, and I don't mind giving people advice. I don't like telling people what to do. I'm certainly not. If I say, hey, you should be running a Hyper 7, I'm not telling you to run a Hyper 7. I guess I'm suggesting you to. I don't even like doing that. What I like to do is telling you, giving you my opinion, tell you how I feel about the Hyper 7, why I run it, why I like it, and then you can do what you wish. If you want to pick one up, or you could care less, that's all up to you. I just want to give you my opinions. And my opinion is you spend money on the radio and the servos. You do not spend money on the chassis and the engine. All right, what I mean by that. And the chassis thing is debatable. Now, I certainly understand, and I run a Kyosho MP9 also. It was pricey when it was new. It's an older, so now it's cheaper. Nah, they're still fairly expensive. Parts for it are expensive. Parts for this are still. See, I went. It had been a while since I bought anything for the Hyper 7 because, as you're about to see, I have everything. I could literally build probably 2 buggies from total scratch. But anyways, it had been a long time since I went on eBay and looked at Hyper 7 stuff. I wanted to check the prices of a couple things and see if stuff is still available. And it is still available. You can check like the cast knuckles. They're still available, like 15, 16 bucks shipped. Not too bad. But those are the cast ones, and we'll get into that here shortly. All right, so the chassis thing is debatable. I don't. I've thought a lot about buying a current chassis. I've ran. I had an associated RC8 B3, I believe. I've had a couple other things. The Hyper 7's all that I've wanted to run. So that's a me thing. I don't want to spend money on a new chassis. I like running the Hyper 7, right? And engines. I certainly am a proponent of budget engines. I do not like spending over $200 for an engine. I'm really, really thinking about getting one of those Novas. They are really nice. I'm fighting. It's an internal struggle. Uh, but I love running $150 to $200 engines. That to me is my sweet spot. That's about half of what everyone else I run with at my track spends on their engines. Literally, that's half of what 95% of everyone else at my track spends on their engines. Okay. So chassis and engine, I say, my opinion, you save money there, but where you spend your money, and I'm gonna show you what I did. Okay, this was me for a while. You'll see for a while. This right here was me. Let me show you this. Over in the old Shimano grab. This is my receiver tray. Check this out. Boom. Radio link receivers. Now, why did I ran this thing for a long time, as you can tell. I didn't buy all these at once. These were gathered over a long time. I ran that thing over a year. It's a piece of garbage. This thing sucks. Why did I run it for a year? Because you could pick these things up for like $8 frickin' bucks. These things, the receivers, are dirt cheap, right? So I stuck with it, okay? And it's not good. Glitchy. Turn it on. So you set everything up, turn it on, and your wheels are cocked. Just it's a horrible radio that I ran for like a year to save money, right? I try. Okay, I'll be honest with you. I try to save money everywhere. I am frugal, is what I like to say. Yeah, I do spend my money, but I try not to. If something cheap works, cheap engines work for me. They don't for you, okay, fine. But for me, SH engines, $150, $170 engines, work great for me. But this friggin' thing didn't. So, and yeah, you don't got to spend a whole lot of money. All I run is a Spectrum DX5C. Nothing special. It's like $100. The receivers are what, like 25, something like that. That's where they get you, right? I love Futaba, don't get me wrong, but I almost kind of look at Futaba as like Snap-on. It is good, don't get me wrong, it's really good, it's high quality, but you're paying a lot of money, extra money for that name, kind of. So radio link receivers, $8, about 25, maybe 30. I haven't bought one in a while for the Spectrum either. I've got a few of those. But if you run a Futaba, you can pay like 80, $100 for receivers. It is very high quality, good stuff, but my opinion, I've been running this for over a year now, probably about a year and a half, and it has been great. I like Spectrum radios. I think it's a good balance of quality and price. That's my opinion. I like Spectrum. All right, so yeah, you don't have to spend a whole lot of money on radio, but spend some, right? That's my point. But where I spend my money, right? I'll show you where I spend my money, and I'll tell you what, the exact same thing like this. I tried not to for a long time. Like I said, I have not done my servo collection video yet, but we will be doing that. And this doesn't represent like a bunch of stuff I bought trying to buy cheap servos, trying to find that mythical, awesome quality, strong and fast, cheap servo. A lot of this stuff's just, gathered over the years, but there's plenty in here that are that. Was stuff I bought trying to get a good cheap servo. I did actually find, when I do my servo collection video, there are some interesting certain things that were actually really good for the price. But what was I pulling this out for? Oh, you know what? Oh man, the servo collection video is coming soon. But you know what? These are right here. I'm going to take 60 seconds. Y'all want to see some legends? Y'all want to see some actual living legends right here before your eyes. Right here, my friends, are the Airtronics 94361 and 94362, the Rock Crushers. Rock Crusher speed, Rock Crusher torque. I'll get more into these in the servo collection video, but holy crap, these are monsters. I would put these up against anything. And I tell you what, I'll show you a servo that not what is that one? A Spring RC. I don't know if you ever heard of Spring RC, but I had gotten this Spring RC servo, and it was rated for high voltage, right? But if you put a LiPo pack on it, it would glitch. It would work great with 6 volts. With a hump pack, it would work great, but glitched out if you ran it with 7.4 volts, right? So you had to run it below its rated voltage. These are old. These are what? It ain't gonna say on here, but these are late 90s and maybe right around 2000. I estimated 2000, late 90s, 2000. These are certainly not at the originally rated for high voltage. These are 6 volt servos. I'd put a LiPo pack on either one of these any day, and these will handle it. These are, holy smokes! I'm getting off into the weeds here, people. But look at this at 6 volts, right? At 6 volts, 200 ounce inches isn't nothing to sneeze at. That's what, 14 and a half, 15 kilograms. That's not bad at all. But look at this, 0.07 seconds at 6 volts. You put a LiPo pack on this thing, and the servo moves faster than your hand does. It's nuts. Anyways, what the heck am I talking about? Servos. Spend your money, okay, on servos. I'm sorry, I don't want to phrase it that way. I spend my money on servos. So in my race buggies, and I like, I've discussed before, just like that. Ones that are generally, these are generally associated together as a set, the 6.1 and the 6.2, the speed and the torque, right? On a servo set like that, most people like the torque in the steering position and the speed in the throttle position. Some people like it the other way. I personally, I like the same servo on both. In this one, I have a pair of high-tech can you get in there? D955 TWs in this buggy. In my other buggy, I have a pair of HS 7954 SH. Now, if you know your servos, I wouldn't expect you to know everything about servos, but those are actually, all four of those are all pretty much this exact same servo. The 7954s were like the last series, and then they high-tech just updated to the D series, like a year and a half, 2 years ago. And so they changed. The 7954 became the 955. So they both have the exact same specs. At 7.4 volts, they are 29 kilograms and 0.12 seconds. Okay. And they are the 7954s you can buy still today for around $100. The D955s are like $115. Okay. Each servo. To me, that is a lot of money. That is $130 no, not 130, 115, $230 worth of servos in the car. That is more than I spend on the engine. Always. I don't run any engines that I spend $230 on. But I got $230 worth of servos in the car because, in my opinion, that is where you need to spend, where I like spending my money. I've tried to find that unicorn, the servo with the same specs, right? Those killer specs, but is $25-$30. There are plenty that say it. There are plenty that claim that. I don't buy it. I've tried them. They are either glitchy or they just do not do those numbers. These high techs, they're very high quality. They do the numbers. They last. And I probably went high tech for price. Yes, I'm spending $115 on a servo, but a Futaba with those same titanium gears and those same specs is going to be over $200, I guarantee. So going high tech is also a budget choice. All right, are we ready to talk about Hyper 7s? This video is going to be, 2 hours? Probably. Sorry, we're rambling tonight, but we're Nitro talking. This is what we're doing here. We're having a Nitro chit chat. Servo collection video coming soon. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. So, I had that out to show this is dirty, needs cleaned. That's filthy. But I run the Traxxas air filter on all of my Hyper 7s. I run that Traxxas air filter. All right. And I'm using the old Duratrax vehicle stand here today. All right. Now, I kind of started talking about, so I started running Hyper 7s, right? I just so happened to have them. Started liking them, started running them, right? So then I became a Hyper 7 guy, right? So I was generally running 2. At most times, I had 3, right? But I pretty much always made sure to have 2 running at all times. Maybe one would be down, right? One would go down, I would fix the other one up. Usually always had 2 going. Right now, I really only have 1 going. This one was they kind of cycle through, right? I'll rebuild one, right? I'll run it for a while, and then after a while it'll need rebuilt, right? But I'll have another one that I'm working on, so I'll move to that one while this one goes to the back burner. But then this one will get rebuilt and it'll move back up to the front, right? So this one is at the stage of it is tired. I ran this buggy in this configuration for who knows, long time. But it is ready for a complete rebuild. A quick thing I want to show you. I have a chassis protector on here, and you'll see how much chassis protecting it did. My opinion, those things, it's that carbon fiber sticker, and you can see there's not much left of it. It's all totally gone back there. A little bit of it there, and most of it that's left is that little section in there, bit right there. But I think that I have those on a couple shelf queens. If there's a car that's super nice, but it's got a couple scratches on the bottom, I have a chassis protector on a couple cars that are shelf queens, and I think it looks nice on those. But I don't think those do a whole lot. The sticker chassis protectors, I don't think they do a whole lot for protecting your chassis. Now, I do run both pillow ball, pivot ball. I say pillow ball, and C-hub. Boy, I'm old. I'm not that old. I run both pillow ball and C-hub cars. I like them both. I love running them both. To me, and I think it's how I have them set up. This might not make sense to you, but I feel that I have the cars set up to where they drive pretty much the same. Or maybe I'm just used to both of them. It's hard to say, but I can get around the track at about the same rate in a pillow ball car and a C-hub car, right? Hyper 7s. All right, so what I'm going to show you here, so this is my previous buggy that is awaiting a rebuild. This is my current Hyper 7. This is the one that was rebuilt last, so it is freshest. And then you can certainly see the tub. Let me get rid of that. In the tub here, I have my third one, which I haven't ran in a while. Let me get rid of that. Purple theme, blue theme. This one was kind of green themed. Not totally, but we'll see. All right, so let's first, you know what? Do I want to go through, you know what? Let me go through my modifications. Okay, I want to do that. So for that, we're going to go to the newest, because this is like the latest evolution of the Todd Hyper 7, right? At each one I rebuild, I figure out, little things and change little things. So this one has had the most done to it. Okay, so I'm going to tell you right now how to make a Hyper 7 bulletproof, okay? Number one, and this is very important, and I'm sorry, it's just the way it is. This is the Hyper 7 is a budget vehicle, right? But if you want to run it right, you do have to get you some CNC knuckles. A C-hub car. Pillow ball car, you're solid gold as far as front suspension. The pillow balls are a tank. The only thing you got to worry about those, don't try to have your track too wide or you'll pop out the dog bone out of there. It'll get jammed, but just keep your track tight enough that they can't pop out and you'll be fine there. But anyways, that is one of the most, if not, there's two main things, right? Number one is the cast knuckles are garbage. They lasted me a few months tops. It would strip out and I would have to replace one of the cast knuckles. This is the first set of CNC knuckles I have bought. I have ran these CNC knuckles for 2.5 years. Let me just give you one tip. Use thread lock. Use blue thread lock when you tighten the screws that hold it in, and tighten it really good. Don't, you shouldn't be too much of a worry of stripping it out, but you want it good and tight. Top and bottom, use thread lock and good and tight, and your knuckles, the CNC knuckles, will last. That's the thing, though. Now, you can get the aftermarket ones, I think GPMs, for like $30, right? Which isn't too bad, but in my opinion, the Ofna ones are far superior. These are the Ofna ones, and they are the best knuckles for the Hyper 7. Get that out of there. But I mean, they are available, but you're gonna have to pay about $60. It's gonna run about $60 for a pair. That's about what I saw them for on eBay. Maybe you can find them cheaper, but that's about what I saw them at for the knuckles, around $60. But my opinion, they're worth every penny. They are an essential upgrade. The second essential, and this is probably the number one upgrade for this car. Now, for those of you who run it, what's the problem? What's the thing that breaks? Those of you who run stock Hyper 7s, what's that thing that broke and sucked and yada yada, right? The front diff housing. The front diff housing, these ears, these dog ears up top here. See, get them good in the camera. Those two right there, 1, 2. You will snap those. But that's a cheaper fix than this one. So the problem with that, and Ofna kind of, they left the solution there for you, but they didn't solve it themselves. Let me show you what I mean. So let me pull I have in here one that I ran, the green one, but then also there's just a parts chassis that I've just been picking parts off of. So it still has totally stock front suspension, so I'm going to show you what the deal is here. So this is a stock Hyper 7 front suspension. This is a PBS. As you can see, so this is a stock front shock tower, right? If you look right there, let me make sure we're in the camera good. See, right there, that empty hole. Okay, it's that empty hole right there. And its partner on the other side. Whoop. Empty hole right there. That is the problem. That's why you break the dog ears on the diff case. Break the diff case. Because of those two holes are empty. What you need, and all of the stock ones that I know of, the TQ Sport, PBS, maybe not the PCR, probably not the PCR. Not the PCR. But the other ones, they all leave those holes open, right? So what happens when this gets hit, okay, and pushed back, it can just push and break those ears off, because there's nothing holding it in at the bottom, right? So if the shock tower went down to that hole and had a screw in it holding it in place, all right, so pretend my finger is that screw holding it in place at the bottom. When this gets pushed at the top, it has to push that screw out before it can tilt back, right? Whereas if there's nothing there, it can just tilt on back. So basically, the fix for that is just run one of the front shock towers. There's a few of them. This one is the Yannick edition front shock tower. And as you can see, it has little ears that come down to that hole that was empty and now has a screw in it with the shock tower. Same to its buddy on the other side. The Yannick edition front shock tower, the PCR front shock tower. As long as you get one of the front shock towers that uses those holes that are left empty by the stock front shock tower, then since I broke 2 or 3 front diff cases running stock front shock towers, right? Since I've switched my vehicles to shock towers that utilize that hole, I have not broken one. So, all right, so that's the 2 main things that are issues for the Hyper 7. Okay, if you have the stock cast knuckles, there will usually strip out, not so much break as the screw hole will strip out and the screw will fall out. And the front shock tower, breaking those dog ears off of the front diff case, okay? So that's the 2 main things, but then there's a couple other things that I like to do. Now, number 1, if you see, take a look right here. So that screw, right, that goes in there, you see how this, so this arm, I've got it in the air, so it's at the bottom of its travel, right? If you look and see, so that screw right there was normal size. I took it and chucked it in my drill and took a Dremel with a sanding sponge and made the diameter smaller. Where's my... So this would be like a normal size. That's a normal size, and that is, let me get in there. Can we see? Yeah, normal size right there, and that's the one I shaved out. Now, why'd I do that? You can see now this is at full extension, right? And it is not biting into that plastic. When that had a full size head, at the full extension, it would start to bite into the plastic, right there, and it would bind. So I shaved that head of it down, and now even at full extension, you can see it's not touching the plastic. It does not bind. Another issue with this buggy, and this is an issue that they could have done something about. Most other buggies don't have this issue. This is a kind of an issue that is older buggies. Most other companies have figured this out, but this came stock. The shocks were held in by just a screw going into the plastic right here, right? So you had a screw going into the plastic through the bottom of the shock and into the plastic behind it. And that's what held the bottom of the shock on. As the suspension would move, it would work its way out, and you would get floppy arm from the bottom of the shock tower coming loose because your screw backed out. It happens. My fix for that was very simple. Just put some longer screws in there and put some bolts, some nuts, put some lock nuts on the back of them. Did that all the way around. The rears, I had to get really long ones to go all the way to that little corner there. But those things, you gotta be, to remove your shocks, you gotta do it on purpose. Those things do not come out on their own. You gotta make a concerted effort to get those shocks off. All right. What else? I'm trying to think. Okay. I like to stiffen up this brace right here. You really need the washers on the two ends of it. The screw here will just bite into. I like this really tight. So I put the washers in between all the pieces to keep it. Kind of mushes if you tighten it really tight without the washers in there. It kind of mushes together. But you put the washers in there to separate it, and it makes it. You can tighten it a lot tighter and keep it firmer without it distorting. Anything else on here? If I think of anything else as the time goes, I kind of showed this in the Force Pro 21 video. This isn't just a Hyper 7 thing, but so instead of having a grub screw in that collar there, I put a regular cap head screw, and that's what I run my throttle return bands around the carburetor and around that cap head screw right there. All right, this video is so freaking long. I have not even started. This thing literally is going to be 2 hours. All right. I wanted to. All right, so let's start taking a look at these buggies. So we saw the servos that I made now, and I'm running lipo packs in these, and also I have Dean's plugs. I swapped the plugs, the standard plug attached to the switch. I swapped it out with the Dean's plug because the lipo packs that I run came with Dean's plugs and heavy wire, and I like being able to charge them quicker than you can with the little thin receiver pack wire. So I just put a Dean's plug on my switch. So the battery, it's a lipo pack and is connected inside there with a Dean's plug. This was, I have a servo mounted, or not a servo, a transponder mounted onto the transponder mount. Although I do have it zip tied onto it, and I got the mount little plate thing for this somewhere, and I just don't know where it is. I wonder if anyone recognizes. I don't expect anyone to recognize this, but does anyone recognize? I pulled this piece, right? The servo arm, this whole throttle linkage setup. I pulled it off of another vehicle. Does anybody know what that came off of? I'm sure you don't. All right. Now, this, like I said, this is last year's buggy, right? This one is tired and getting ready for a rebuild. The whole rear end, as you'll see on that one I said I've been pulling parts off of. This is the rear end off of here. The rear end that was on that one, I have in the box here. As you can see, I got the purple standoffs there in between the wing mounts. What was it that died? Rear diff. Yeah, I think the rear diff went on this. And I wanted to run it, so I just threw that other. The cool thing about these, if you have a second one, you can swap the rear end from one to the other in like 2 minutes. It's really quick and easy. But this was the rear end that was on this buggy, but I pulled that other one and threw it on here just so I could race with it.